Welcome to Get Your Mind Right, the podcast where merchant services, digital marketing, and personal growth collide. Tune in for real talk, fresh insights, and the motivation to level up.
Good morning and welcome to Get Your Mind Right. This is the world's only podcast devoted to merchant services and digital marketing sales professionals. With me today is Jake No, who's the Director of Sales for Evolv. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning.
Hey, thanks for being on part of the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to have you back. Now, how many times has this been you've been on the show now?
I believe this is the third.
The third.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, 5-timer club is in your sights.
And what's the highest so far?
I think I've got either 3 or 4 people that have done 3.
Oh, okay.
Tying this one, so it's a race.
Okay.
It's anyone's game at this point. Everybody's got to have goals, Jake.
That's right. That's right. I got to know what I got to beat now.
Yeah, it's all out there for you. Well, Jake, let me tell you why I asked you to be on the show today. I heard you give a presentation not too long ago, and it's on a wide range of topics. It's like on identifying and hiring the right people and the training, the mindset. You had targets and goals. I hope you remember that presentation.
I do. Yeah,
okay.
I do. It's what I live by every day. So.
Okay, well, good. Well, good. Because that's what I want to ask you about today. So, you know, your first thing here is that you talked about finding the right people. So, you know, like when you meet someone for the first time, for someone that's going to be in your downline, you know, what are these? You use the term right qualities. What are those right qualities you contemplate?
Well, so a lot of times when people are interviewing for a job, they'll ask about, you know, prior jobs and, you know, how those prior jobs relate to their new job that they're interviewing for, where I take a very different approach. You know, I'm really looking for people that want to be stars at their new company. I ask them questions about what drives them, and I always let them know it's okay to say money, because at the end of the day, you know, how can you be self-fulfilling and provide for yourself and your family if, you know, money's not a part of that answer.
Right.
And so, you know, if somebody shies away from responding with, I want to be the top dog, I want to be able to make tremendous amount of money, sky's the limit, it's really a red flag for me. Now, it's not an end all, but it really, to me, it's a negative for sure.
You know, it's funny you say that. So you've got 15 people
15.
working under you.
Yep.
You know, how many of those people would you say that money is their number one motivator?
Not enough.
Not enough. Is there even one person in there?
Yeah, I would say there are 3.
3.
Yeah,
Okay.
3.
Okay.
Yeah. Where money is definitely the biggest driver to them.
Uh-huh.
Complacency is not something that falls under their scope at all.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what the word complacency means. They just want to be the top dogs and they want to make as much money as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not only for themselves, but for a company and their partners.
Well, I bring that up because the common misconception and stereotype is that salespeople are just about the money, and they're really not. I mean, we did a company I worked for years ago. We actually did a personality inventory, and it was we had a goodly amount of people. There was like 80 or 90, and money was on there, but it was some small number out of like 90 reps. Only like 4 money was truly their top money, was their top motivator. And the thing is, it wasn't like you ranked them yourself. They had testing inside the questionnaire.
Yeah.
See if you're being frank and honest and things that move you. So probably no surprise to you. Money wasn't my number one motivator either.
Well, you know, and I think, you know, I say money on these 3 individuals that come to mind, but they at the same time realize that through good activities and being good advocates, money is going to come.
Right.
And again,
that'll follow along.
Yeah, and if being top dog is something that drives and motivates them and is one of their end alls, then again, money comes to the top producers, right? So I think money comes as a result, but they certainly weren't shy at all in the interview process to also mention that it's important to them.
Yes.
Because it should be.
Yes. So in this particular sales group I was involved in, like recognition which, there's some people in your
love
room that's very big on them. That was my number one motivator, by the way. But among the group, that was the top choice among people, or the test deemed that you were. And some people got their results back. Well, we all got our results right, and they were like, "Well, I disagree with this." I looked at mine. I'm like, "Yeah, they completely got me right."
Yeah.
I remember the number 2, and it wasn't my number 2, but the number 2 for our organization was they wanted to be part of a winning team.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, that's very cliche to state, I want to surround myself by those that are performing, but it's actually true. I mean, who wants to be surrounded by a bunch of lumps on a log, right?
Yeah. No one.
It's not an exciting work environment, but on the other side of things, if people are hooraying all day every time they cut a big deal, then it's a much more positive environment to be on. And the recognition side of things, John, we do a lot of things for recognition in our department. One of the newer things that we do, and it was actually your idea, and it's loved right now so far, and it's actually rotated 3 different hands so far, which surprises me. I thought it was going to stay with one individual for the majority of the time. That's the top rep sales parking spot. It's been a big hit, big hit. And actually one of the cats that we brought internal that was external might be in the running this month for that top spot.
Really?
Yeah. So that's one form of recognition that we do. But in addition to that, we're constantly sharing leaderboards.
Yeah.
It's right in your face all the time. A lot of times people will ask me, "Hey, why do you take so much time with the numbers and stuff?" And is that really your best use of time? And granted, there's other things I could be doing that are very important, like walking and being a part of the calls and things like that, and stuff that I strive to do more of personally. But sharing those numbers and keeping them loud right there in front of their face, they may say it doesn't affect them in their day-to-day, but it certainly does.
It's funny that rep of the month. It's so important. You get zero compensation for that.
That's right.
I mean that, and just a regular way the parking lot's configured, a regular parking spot. You're saving 40 steps, but it's letting your peers know that you're on top.
Well, sometimes that black asphalt can be a little slippery, So
and it can get pretty hot in July.
It definitely can. It can melt a set of stilettos if you let it.
It just start punching holes in it.
Yeah.
Right, you are. So tell me this. You went through a pretty good detail on the quote unquote right person. Has that changed for you over time?
I look for very nurturing individuals. So yeah, I guess it has changed.
You mean you didn't look for nurturing people before?
I don't think so as much. I'm still big on activity. Activity's always going to be one of the most important things, but I also want somebody that's very nurturing, has a very nurturing background to them. Potentially, they care about their customers, and when they care about their customers, they'll place them with the right solutions. And as a company man myself, that means we're going to keep them long term. It does us no good to sign somebody up, make a bunch of upfront, and then they leave in 4 months. So
right.
I really look for nurturing, but I also look for people that are have very, I like to call it bubbly, but there's probably a better word for that, personalities. And what I've found is those people like to talk to people who are fun and energetic, and because to me it just screams confidence in the solution. I've had vice versa, people that are very sharp, very analytical, somewhat reserved, and though they may be far superior in their knowledge of the industry as a whole, they are more like 8 to 9 deal a month type people, not 30. So if that tells you anything.
Yeah, I gotcha. So I know you look at a lot of resumes. So what's the difference that you found between someone who, quote unquote, looks good on paper versus someone who's actually going to produce?
Well, when they first get here, I maybe shouldn't pay this much attention, but I do. I want to see if I can make my way out to the parking lot and glance into the vehicle. It's not at all the vehicle itself. It's how that vehicle's kept. Tells you a lot. When they showed up, regardless of whether it was casual Friday with jeans on the Friday, did they still opt to wear slacks or a nice dress? to me, it just shows that they truly want to be here and they want to earn their place at company. So those are a couple things I look at. But as soon as they meet me, are they big energy, make good eye contact?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the small things to me that stand out. And then following that interview, what did their follow-up process look like thereafter, or did they have one at all?
Right.
It amazes me. I'll have times where a candidate will come in and they may not be one that I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta extend an offer right now. But there was somebody I was highly considering, and I said, well, let me give it 24, 48 hours here, see if they send a follow-up email or maybe a phone call, asking what next steps are. Because that to me codifies that this person really wants to be here and they're fully bought.
Yeah. No, I get you. I want to circle back to what you started to on that thing on the car too, and that to me, I've never seen that not be an indication of how someone conducts themselves, right? Because
Exactly.
I get it. So you get in a financial position, you got an old beater.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Does that mean it has to be filthy, trashed out?
Not at all.
No, not at all. But that inside of that car speaks to how that person conducts their life, right?
Yep.
If there's trash, garbage, never been cleaned, well, guess what? They got a lot of trash and garbage, and their lives need a good scrubbing.
No doubt. And some people might even say, when you're in those financial lower parts of your life, more of a reason to keep up with that vehicle, make sure the tires are aired up, make sure the paint's in good shape, leads to rust, right? It's all about maintenance and how what you see as important. That's your transportation means to make an income for your family. So it is important.
Yeah, you hear about people too. They got a big meeting or a special day, like your prom or you're in a wedding. Well, what do? You go get your hair cut.
That's right.
Right. You want to make yourself look as good as possible. And it's the same thing on your vehicle too. And I've actually told reps this before. You can tell just telling deaf ears, right? You get in that car in the morning and it's clean. Inside's been vacuumed out. Man, you feel great starting your day.
No different than making your bed first thing in the morning.
It's the same thing. You start off a day with accomplishment.
Yep, no doubt.
Well, let's shift gear a little bit. Shift gears, Jake. You talked about helping reps find their niche. Okay, so why do you think that niche clarity is so important for a sales rep?
Because being able to speak the merchant's lingo is key. I mean, it's one thing to, again, going back to the example I mentioned earlier about having someone that's highly competent on our industry.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean much if you're not able to relay that in a relatable manner.
Mm-hmm.
So what I found is just the best case scenario to bring somebody in first is finding that good quality person, which is frankly the hardest part. And then let them try different avenues, different verticals to see what is best fitting for them. And if I have the benefit of knowing the person prior, obviously that helps, but I'm able to peel out characteristics and fit those characteristics with the appropriate vertical.
Mm-hmm.
So big bubbly personalities, perfect for digital, right? Very nurturing person who's caring, that's organized, that's perfect bank RA, right?
Right.
Because those bankers, they don't care big or small. They want their merchants taken care of. They want it documented as such. They want them called timely. So organization, documentation, all of that leads to an RA that may be assigned to a financial institution.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I do, and it's not a good fit for everybody. It's not an easy industry. I know we get some people internal. It's like, well, it's hard. We're making it harder than what it should be. It's actually pretty complex now. So if I can peel away, some layers, 2, 3, 4 weeks in, a month in, and say, hey, this person's best suited here, then that's where they usually end up.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean they're limited there. It just means that's probably going to be their primary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Well, I know you got a great example there of someone that started off kind of slow and then you found a niche for them and they really took off. I'd really like you to speak to that.
Yeah, so fellow woodsman actually.
Mm-hmm.
We started this individual.
So our folks that don't know what woodsman is, would you take it?
Oh yeah, sure. So woodsman is a vertical that we created that is actually in the outdoor arena. So a lot of people confuse it. They think it's only the hunting arena. Well, that's just not the case. It's anything that's outdoor recreation.
Mm-hmm.
So whitewater rafting, biking, campgrounds, hunting, fishing, anything that has a guide would be great. But this individual, we brought them in and we started out like we normally do, have them doing buyer's choice upgrades on house accounts, doing some shadowing with our legacy RAs, helping them out with their paperwork. You see, we take a very secretarial approach at first and allow them in real time to learn how to do the paperwork, review statements, work with sales support, all of that before we assign them a relationship. Well, this individual had gone through all of those stages and still wasn't finding any success. But this person was timely, dressed to par, big personality, was always friendly. Everybody in the office loved him. And so it was time for me to do my job and find an area in which he could win. And that's when we actually founded Woodsman. And in less than 8 months, we actually accomplished 96 outfitters that we signed up in 8 months. And so, now we're over 140, and so just over a year in.
Nice.
And that's one person. And so we just added a new Woodsman with a similar background.
That's an amazing turnaround in a short period of time. So let me throw another scenario at you. You got a rep in there, and they're doing the right things, and you still think they have the right profile, but they just haven't found their needs yet. How do you coach them up for that?
Well, I let them know that this industry again is not an easy one. So don't think that this is common knowledge, and by this point you need to be landing a minimum of 12 bids a month. But you need to start winning somewhere. So whether that just be helping out with flight risk tickets, people calling in wanting to cancel due to a better rate offered by a competitor. Anything I can involve them in to where they can begin to see traction is what I attempt to do. And one of our verticals that ends up being a pretty hot ticket is our GovCard vertical. So if people are struggling in the bank channel and some of these other channels where you may have to have a wide array of knowledge to be able to field the referrals, GovCard is again very niche vertical. Yeah. It's the same talk off every time. And some of the RAs actually call it easy money, John.
I've heard that term.
Yeah.
I love that.
No doubt. So that's my last ditch on a person. And frankly, if they can't do GovCard or find success there, maybe they don't give it enough interest.
Yeah.
They're probably, again, not the right person.
Yeah. I agree with that. So you had a whole section of your presentation, Jake, and it was called Training That Sticks. You remember that?
Yeah.
So what's your approach to training these new reps? So it's not just an information dump, right? We're backing up that truck and just unloading tons and tons of information on them. But rather, it's application-oriented things and things that'll stick to them.
Yeah, so the first thing we do is, my background is, in addition, I did some internal sales, but in addition to that, I was sales support specialist.
Yeah.
So what Kylie does today. And in that role, I was able to build and develop a very robust scans folder, like a shortcut folder. And the first thing that I like to train on is the networks. Everything starts with the networks before you parse down to what products, what's the nature of business, and that sort of thing. And so I start there. It's a one-on-one session with myself. Usually takes about a business day and a half. From there, I release that individual to their workstation where our sales support team assigns them a lessonly path. And that lessonly path has anything from industry vocabulary words they need to know, the products matrix, more information on our networks, what buyer's choice is as compared to traditional. And after they work their way through the path, that may take 3 to 4 business days, depending on the person, for them to graduate all the courses. Then we will send them through the shadowing with a legacy RA who is highly successful in the vertical that I feel they may be suited for. So it's very, very hands-on. Once they get comfortable with that talk off, they may be even involved in setting that appointment for that RA. So now they're even more invested. Hey, this is my appointment. I want to see not only for shadowing sake and continuing learning, but I'm getting comped for this set that I'm now a part of.
Right.
And then in short order, we want that person to start taking over. Maybe even if it's just the introduction. Well, then maybe it's Viv Search next, or intro to traditional processing or buyer's choice. And then before long, they're running the whole thing on their own, and they're released to sell for themselves. So it's pretty neat.
It is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Jake, tell me about the role of repetition in this training.
Well, first off, they got to be willing to put in the repetition to see that come through for them. But activity initially, there's nothing that beats it.
Yeah.
Regardless, you always need to be ringing. Now, if you're a legacy RA and you're somebody that cranks out 25 deals on a casual month and you 30 on a good month, then okay, if you make 25, 30 calls a day, but you have 3.5 hours talk time, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
5 apps were submitted. You don't hear me complaining. But, especially early on, John, they have to be willing to make the calls.
Mm-hmm.
And for a brand new RA, that really looks like 100 calls minimum. Our essays make 250 a day, so some may say 100 may be a little shallow.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm doing that because I want it to be a realistic. They hired on as a rep, and so they expect to not be just sheer outbound and all day, but more strategic calls rather. But repetition is absolutely key, and good activity it's required to be successful.
I'm chuckling. You jarred loose a memory that had died with me decades ago. But my dad started taking me fishing when I was like a little bitty guy. You remember how it is when you're a little kid. You're out there and the fish aren't biting, or you get distracted or whatever. Next thing you know, you got your line reeled up and your mind somewhere else. My dad would go to me. He goes, "Well, I never seen a guy catch a fish, didn't have his line in the water."
Yeah.
It would make me like half mad, when he'd say that. But
well, and then you get the opportunity as a youngster to catch your first fish, and then you don't set the hook. It's the same way in sales.
Now, is this what you were taught to fish?
Yeah. So I just took my boys fishing yesterday, and you get them to the point where they can at least start casting on their own, reeling in on their own. But then you have to teach them how to set the hook.
Yeah.
It's the same way in sales.
Yeah.
Activities that cast and activities that learning to reel, do the basics, make sure it's not wrapped around the end.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you have the opportunity to land that big fish, did you set the hook? Or did you use a poison phrase like passing the feed to your customer and lose that fish?
Mm-hmm. That's a great analogy.
It really is.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about this in a long time, but when you're a little kid, you're so excited, you got a fish.
Oh, yeah.
You just want to start reeling.
Start cranking.
That notion of setting the hook.
Yeah.
That's really a hard skill to learn.
Yeah, I have it on YouTube repeat videos right now showing my boys what it means to truly set the hook.
So my dad, I did get my revenge on that because he was always on me. You didn't set the hook. You didn't set the hook. Over and over and over and over, right? So we went fishing in Maine one summer. We go on a boat. We go cod fishing, right? My dad was like a real strong guy. He didn't bite. Freaking take a 10-pound fish and like jerk its head off. He'd set the hook so hard. And so what was happening is I was like literally, my family members, I'm like literally catching more fish than everybody else put together. I was like little bitty, like 75 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And of course they know how it is in fishing. Everybody notices this. So the boat captain came over and he goes, you look what he's doing. He goes, you can't set the hook on a cod. He goes, you're just ripping the hook out of its mouth. He goes, you're never gonna land a cod like that. He goes, as soon as they bite, just start reeling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look at that. I'm going, yeah.
Yeah.
Take a look at what I'm doing here.
Yeah, hey, learn from your peers who are winning.
That's
what we do in our department. That's what we do in our department. You don't want to watch, it's crazy to say, but you don't even want to watch the individuals cranking out 12 deals. I want to watch people cranking 30. So you learn through the cod having the thin mouths. I've done the same thing, but I've learned through crappie.
Yeah.
They paper
Soft
thin mouths, very light hook set on those.
And just again, you're jarring off the memories. I talked about my granny last week, right? And she was a big fisherwoman, big time. But dude, that's all she had to hear. But like my dad and my grandpa, they literally every time were just could not hardly break themselves as though they feel that pressure on the hook, man. They don't want to rip the fish's head off.
Yep.
Yeah. This is a good analogy. It's a good analogy. So let's pivot to digital sales training here. Okay, so I know you've got this ranking system, this much ballyhooed training ranking system. So tell me what led to that, Jake.
Well, so we years ago, you may remember, had a pretty formalized digital training.
Oh yeah.
But like any industry, just like the processing industry, digital is moving very quickly, and if you must stay up with the paces and the times. And so we took a look at our old training, and what we did was pretty much rebuilt it from the ground up with our help and a digital sales lead, Miss Bree Miracle, and also founding partner Austin and myself. We're able to take a look at our old stuff, rework it from the ground up, and we do what's called an 8-week digital training.
Mm-hmm.
And following that, we actually have an exam, which is in form of a role play session, where you can go from being not qualified all the way to a platinum rep for digital. So it's not qualified, usually found within the first 90 days, or somebody that hasn't yet graduated the bronze. Bronze is only tested on website and BidSearch, our two very base products. You should be able to sell those in short order. And then silver is our next step up, which is all of our core products under our digital arena. It's our big four, is what I like to call them. Website, processing, listings, and social media. That's our big four. And we do ads for extra points if you do cover that on that session. And so in order to be assigned as a relationship advocate to your own relationship, you must know the products and offerings that we have here at the company. Would you agree? That's important?
Oh, yeah.
So in order to fly, Evolv, and Viv's brand, I mean, we want all of our reps, there's not even a one. They have to be a minimum required of a silver graduate to be able to have their own relationship. Until then, they're going to be running second herd on all those accounts,
mm-hmm.
where there will be another primary assigned.
Mm-hmm.
Next step up would be gold, and that introduces e-commerce and also a 100 mid limit. You have to have 100 mids, and then you're getting some seasonality behind you as a digital rep, and then moves up to platinum from there. So then you're able to do drop shipping, robust integrations into point of sales and things like that. So we only have one of those today. It takes a few years to get there.
So I know this is a relatively new program that you have there.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any shift in rep behavior since you rolled this out?
Yeah, already have seen drastic changes. Some individuals who weren't really running at digital
mm-hmm.
as much anymore, maybe they did in the past and they tried it, didn't work out for them. They are desiring to be certified because they see those around them getting certified. And what we're finding is more digital is being sold because of it. In fact, I just finished commission reports from last week when I was out, and I was pleased to see that we had 31 product approvals, and about half of which were digital. And several of the RAs that sold digital aren't digital RAs.
Yeah.
So obviously, yeah, it does work.
Yeah.
And it does that. It'll do one of two things. It'll either do that, or it'll be very transparent and glaring to that RA that, hey, digital's just not for me. This certification process, it made me nervous. I stumbled on my words. It pointed out my flaws, and maybe not even flaws. Again, it's not my niche.
Yeah.
And so I need to leverage my digital reps, my certified reps that are my peers, to take those on for me. And so it's really created even a better team environment in there, where we're flipping each other digital opportunities,
mm-hmm.
and the outside reps even are involved in it as well, sending in digital flip-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they see that certified exam questionnaire and they say, I'll just flip it in.
Yeah. So, what's your advice for these reps that maybe they thought they were going to go from silver to gold, they didn't do it. They get a little discouraged with that?
Not so much, because the silver to gold really comes with tenure, because the biggest thing we look at there is mid count, and because most of the time, if you can do silver, you could do gold.
Yeah.
Because all it adds in there is e-com. So I already have some RAs that are requesting to take their gold chain. And
so they're putting themselves on the path.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and they're already counting the days until they're able to do that. Some of them's already floating around like 75 mid count. Now this is only digital mids, so it doesn't account for their processing,
mm-hmm.
and so they're running at their number to where they can now take that exam for gold.
Okay.
So it has them running at another target, by the way, John.
Yeah.
Just so they can get certified.
Well, that's a great pivot. Let's talk about targets here. So, we've said, as you know, Jake, we have these big, hairy, audacious goals this year, the hags, and and the targets, and
mm-hmm.
You've got a massive number for your department, and your folks have their numbers. I know you went through this whole process with them. So, walk me through this, how you get people. to set a challenging but realistic goal?
So each person has different. I actually had this conversation with several of the partners that we've brought on here at company, and how they handle their internal teams. And what I first do at the beginning of each month is I look up historical data. I think nothing's stronger than historical data.
Yeah.
And normally I can find a year in years past that is a similar to close amount of RAs on board. Otherwise, I prorate their deal count off or add it, okay, to get us in the same spot on that historical data. From there, I set the department a target goal, and the target goal is a standard 30% growth. We feel with the amount of new partners we're bringing on, the amount of digital flipping opportunities we're getting, all the new means of winning a deal has grown up so much that it's warranted a 30% target each and every month. I think that's safe to say. And so I will pull the count from the year prior, add 30% to that. When we're looking at our numbers, I'm tracking a few things. I'm tracking new mids, which each new relationship boarded, whether it be for digital or processing, gets a new mid established. And then I'm looking at product approvals. You can't treat a digital mid with just one product, say a Google ad product of $100 budget, as the same as a deal that's paying $2,000 a month and has every product under the moon. So any product approval is classified with any deal north of $100 in monthly SaaS per product they're being billed.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I look at organic growth because we are, again, company oriented. And so we want our house portfolios to grow. And so one of the things we also tracked is buyer's choice upgrades, where we're taking somebody off traditional processing, giving them the option to offload it and adding that value there and keeping them long-term while making them more profitable. So I put the 30% target on a combination of those added together to get our vision in place for our department. Now, if they don't hit this target, they're almost disappointed. They are disappointed. It's like aim small, miss small, right?
Right.
If you set it at 20% growth, well, they'd hit 21.
Right.
But since we set it at 30, and then we set our BHAG or stretch goal is what we call it, significantly higher, typically they hit right in the middle, and sometimes they'll hit the stretch even.
Yeah.
But we know what they never hit, hardly. Underneath their target.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've had a couple months. I'm not going to sit here and say we don't have, tough months. Sales is like a roller coaster, especially those months where you're coming off a stretch, where you achieved a stretch, and you've burnt through all those deals. It can be tough to rebuild, but that's, again, going back to activity and why activity is so vital for ongoing success for an RA.
Yeah, you're right. And I've always been one to, it's... You walk a fine line on those goals, because if someone bites off of too big of a goal and they realize that, well, sometimes they could just give up rather than keep than recalibrate. And obviously, that's not what we want to have happen, right? But I always want people like, if you think your goal is 20, let's just pick an arbitrary number, and all of a sudden, well, we're going to make it 22. Well, what is that? That's a 10% increase. Can you figure out a way to squeeze 10% more out?
Yeah.
I think you can. And my always thing was too is that even for myself, setting goals is I always want to set it beyond a little bit of what I think I can do, because it's like, again, you figure out little ways to squeeze in the margins and make more. And if you reach for the stars and you fall just a little bit short, well, you're still a superstar, right? You've still gotten a great outcome. So that's an art and a science to do that. But talk to me about the difference in mindset that you see between someone who hits their target and someone who hits their stretch goal.
So,
or is there a difference?
Yeah, there is. You can hit a target while keeping very, I won't say basic, very standard approach, which is I'm going to come in here, I'm going to make my calls, if I get a referral, I'm going to call it, be timely, and I'm going to get it sold. But the people that achieve the stretch and achieve it on a regular basis are the people that say, okay, I'm going to do that. In addition to that, I'm going to look back at some leads, because again, no lead is ever dead, especially from a referral partner.
Reps just stop following up.
Or they say, hey Jake, is there an opportunity for me to call in some of these house books and sell digital into it? They do whatever it takes. They will always want to be ringing. They're
Right.
bored. They are bored. It doesn't take me saying, gosh, it's quiet in here for them to get going. I'm usually telling this person to leave at 6 o'clock because I want to leave, And so those are the people that achieve the stretch. And what is a break, John? Is there breaks in a day? Are you even allowed to get up to go to lunch? That's the winning mentality. Going back to our initial conversation,
Right.
What drives you and what to look for in an individual. I haven't found the secret sauce for it yet. I'm not going to sit here and act like I have, but when you find that person, hold on to them and find the vertical where they can win in. Don't let them go. Find something they can win in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. So when you see these reps setting goals, are there any common mistakes you ever see folks making?
Yeah, I see a lot of times, like if I get with each one of them individually on their goal, you have those individuals, again, you were saying earlier, shoot too high.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, you need to find a middleman spot there. Or the people that literally put like a one deal over their past years, like, you performed that last year with half the referral partners, and you're putting one deal increase. What a goal. What a goal.
Yeah. So now you're in negotiation.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's two different parties there.
Yeah. All right, let's transition into referrals. You talked a lot about folks. Once you get them to set that goal, then it's okay. What's my execution look like to get there? So, you did a whole section on referrals. So why do you think reps struggle so much with asking for referrals?
I think that they feel like it's asking a favor of somebody is a large lift, and potentially it is if you make it hard for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like asking somebody to leave you a review, but if you send them a QR code and say, hey, it dramatically helps my annual reviews if you leave me a review.
Bam. That
They'll
easy.
leave it every time, so you got to make it easy for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's more of it's just another thing they have to do. It's just another thing they have to remember. Human nature really is, and even in 2025, I can still safely say it is. I feel most people are good. I still feel that way.
Especially Americans.
They are. Most people are good regardless of what you see, and they're going to try to do their best to help you. And if you go out of your way because and you position it in a way that, hey, I really value you being a merchant of mine, and I really value what you're doing here at your place of business. And if you trust in and have confidence in me, I love that.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that you feel would fall under that same boat, under that same category? Now you've really positioned it as, wow, he had some great things to say about me, and they almost feel a sense of obligation there to at least try. At least try. Hey, do you mind if I go into Joe's Auto across the street, because he's going to know who you are.
Yeah.
You guys are in similar industries, and do you mind if I mention your name that you use me for your processing? If that's making it easy.
Making it super easy.
Oh yeah, please do. I don't have to go do homework and pull up a bunch of my past friends from Facebook and see who owns businesses.
Yeah.
You made it easy for me.
Made it easy for me.
Yeah, just like writing a review for somebody and having them approve it.
Yeah.
On behalf of them, right?
Yeah, a couple things here. Jerry Faith, he uses this phrase: each merchant you sign, they need to replace themselves. Meaning, I've taken this guy to my pipeline. I've put him online. He's
That's
processing with us. He's got to replace that person for me, right? I mean, it's easy. I've done the hard part. I've built that relationship with them.
Yep.
The other part on referrals too, it's that transfer of trust. Like, for example, if you know someone that you're going to introduce me to, if I just call on them, well, they have no idea who I am. Why would they even want to talk to me?
Mm-hmm.
They much less be interested in anything I have to say. Now, however, if they know you and you say, hey, you need to talk to this guy, I promise you he won't waste your time.
Right.
That's totally different because he
good.
knows you and trusts you. It's
That's
that
right.
transfer of trust. But as you know, it's just the hardest thing to get reps to buy off on that notion.
I know. It's just, I think going back to what I said initially, I just think it's an extra step that they don't realize what they're missing out on. Even if it's just 4 deals extra a month.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, I know reps that don't do 4 deals a month. That's crazy. Crazy.
Oh, most don't. It's crazy.
I hand over 5 or 6 a week sometimes.
Yeah. Well, they're familiar with the couch though, so that's a big thing. So, Jake, we just, we only got like through half the questions I had prepared for today.
Okay.
But this was great. I always enjoy deep diving on these issues with you.
Likewise.
So I'm going to give you one here to end on. How do you see recognition as impacting your team, or what's some of the biggest impacts you've seen as far as recognition?
Don't ever get used to somebody being a top performer as their manager. Always recognize that top performer as if it was the first month they accomplished that great feat. You know what I mean?
So what do you accomplish by that?
Because if you get used to them hitting X amount of deals, call it 20 again, and the first couple 2-3 months you hype them on that, and then they still continue to average 20 or 8, call it 19, 18, somewhere in there, which is still solid, right? If you make that their new standard and you're not recognizing them any longer, that's when they can fall off real quickly.
That's a big deal because they don't feel that appreciation anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
You're taking them for granted.
So I try my hardest, and I think everybody in the building does a good job of keeping them hyped up at all times. And I also like to get them involved in as many things as I can. Once they hit that level of achievement, hey, I would love the opportunity for you to share your knowledge and to speak at our next EU.
Yeah.
I want you to be around these new people. I want you to attend EU dinners. I want you to be there because you're the face that we're trying to build across the board.
It's tough, and I'm guilty of this too. And it's a management letdown because these are the people you should be giving more attention to rather than less, right? But you've heard me say this. Well, I don't worry about so and so. Well, that's a terrible attitude. I should be worried about them because I'm a top producer, and maybe they're struggling, or I'm not giving them enough love, and they don't feel that appreciation anymore.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Couldn't be more true, and it happens in every industry.
Yeah.
Happens in our outdoor companies. We got some superstars that are in management there that need a lot of recognition for what they do on a day-to-day.
Yeah. And the thing is too is that when that happens, and I fall into that trap, is I always feel terrible because that doesn't cost you anything to do that. It really not a lot of effort either. Right. A lot of times it's just I thank you, or pat on the back, or good job, or
a few minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to end it. Jake, any last words you'd like to have?
Activity is key, and if you find that person that has a winning mentality that is never lets complacency slip in any way in their life. Yeah. Whether it be keeping that vehicle, groomed up, whether, it doesn't have to be a nice car, but keep it groomed up. How they maintain themselves physically, personally, all that stuff's important. And once you find those individuals, don't let them go. Find the vertical. It is your job as a manager to find where they can win.
Yep. Hire good people, keep good people.
That's right.
Well, that's a great way to end it. Jake, I appreciate you being on the show.
Enjoyed it.
Would love to have you back.
Oh, absolutely. Look forward to it.
Oh, yeah. I know our viewers love seeing this. So for Jake, I'm John Johnson. And until next time, keep your mind right.